In an obscure text written by JRR Tolkien and set in the first age of Middle-earth, over 6,000 years before the events in Lord of the Rings, there is a curious discussion between the wise human woman Andreth and the Elven Prince Finrod Felegund, in which Andreth recounts a strange belief and hope among her people. "What then is this hope, if you know?" asked Finrod. "They say," answered Andreth, "they say that the One will himself enter into Arda and heal men, and heal all the marring from the beginning to the end." Now Arda is the world, and the One is the being known as allude, the creator of the universe. So what does Andreth mean by the One entering into the world to heal it and to heal men? Hi there, welcome to the Elven Review, where we take a detailed look at some of the intriguing questions of great fantasy literature. In this episode we are looking at the History of Middle-earth Volume 10, which is called Morgoth's Ring, and a little-known tale, or rather dialogue, that records a conversation that took place when the Elven Prince Finrod Felegund visited the house of Andreth, a wise woman of the people of Beor. It is called Athrabeth Finrod Andreth. In a previous video we looked at the Athrabeth to explore the conversation that Finrod and Andreth have about the fate of men and what their ultimate purpose might be in the world. This leads Finrod to speculate that the purpose of humanity will ultimately be to heal the world of the evil that Morgoth has woven into it. However, the conversation eventually leads to the question of hope, and whether there can be any hope for this future in the face of Morgoth's seemingly overwhelming might. After all, he is the most powerful of the beings of Arda, and his evil taint runs through the whole world. The elves refer to this as Arda Mard, referring to Morgoth's evil taint as the marring. Andreth herself doubts the hope she recounts to Finrod about the One entering into Arda to save it, despite believers holding that this hope comes down from the earliest of days. Andreth even questions the existence of the One, whom elves call allude, having no evidence of his existence. This is something we can relate to. Many of us have questioned the existence of God and the hope that goes with that concept. And so it leads Andreth to ask, how could Eru enter into the thing that he has made, and than which he is beyond measure greater? Can the singer enter into his tale, or the designer his picture? But Finrod answers, such words may not be used of the measureless. If Eru wished to do this, I do not doubt that he would find a way, though I cannot foresee it. At this point it's probably useful to just be clear on the context of this discussion. Although Tolkien wrote a fantasy story, he essentially imagined it as a prehistory to our world. It is also fundamentally a Christian-inspired narrative, one in which God is active in the world and known to the elves as allude. Tolkien, after all, was a devout Catholic. So in the discussion between Andreth and Finrod, we have speculation that God will at some future point enter into the world and heal it from the suffering caused by Morgoth. This, of course, seems very much to be a direct allusion to the Holy Spirit of God entering into the world as the Son of God, as Jesus Christ, ultimately to save and redeem the world. Now at this point the conversation between Andreth and Finrod starts to shift into a discussion about the tragic romance that Andreth had with Finrod's brother, Aegnor, and the difficulty of humans and elves having relationships due to the differences between the two kindreds, not least their different fates when they die. So Finrod and Andreth don't really delve any more into the coming of the One, so we are really left to speculate about this. However, in the subsequent commentary after the story, Christopher Tolkien does include a note on this from his father, in which Tolkien says that Finrod had divined that the coming of Eru would be something particularly concerning men. Specifically, he says, since Finrod had already guessed that the redemptive function was originally specially assigned to men, he probably proceeded to the expectation that the coming of Eru, if it took place, would be specially and primarily concerned with men. That is, to an imaginative guess or vision that Eru would become incarnated in human form. This, however, does not appear in the Athrabeth. This is probably as clear as we're ever going to get in terms of Tolkien explicitly alluding to Jesus in the Tales of Middle-earth, and is quite remarkable for that. He was critical of stories that had an overt or in-your-face Christian theme, believing instead that a religious or moral message should be subtle and implicit. In a letter to Milton Waldman, Tolkien critiqued the Arthurian legend for being too explicitly Christian, saying, "That seems to me fatal. Myth and fairy story must, as all art, reflect and contain in solution elements of moral and religious truth, or error, but not explicit, not in the known form of the primary, real world." So for this, and for many reasons, the tale of Andreth and Finrod is fascinating in that it deeply explores some of the fundamental aspects of Tolkien's legendarium. Their discussion is a sad and poignant one, because it is all the time underpinned by Andreth's bitterness from being separated from Aegnor, the man she loves, and in knowing that death will come for her and irrevocably separate them. Her despair is completely understandable, especially within the context of the terrible conflict with Morgoth. As Finrod leaves, there is a final and moving exchange, as Andreth implores Finrod to take a message to Aegnor. "Tell him not to be reckless, not to seek death without need." "I will tell him," said Finrod, "but I might as well tell thee not to weep. He is a warrior, Andreth, and a spirit of wrath. In every stroke he deals, he sees the enemy who long ago did thee this hurt. But you are not for Arda. Whither you go, may you find light. Await us there, my brother and me."